here we go, boys. Another extraction game and another playtest I'm covering for a game with no fixed release date. It's starting to feel like I get off on this stuff. And by the time I'm uploading this, the playtest is done, but they do intend to run more. This is Vaultbeakers from Beta Dwarf. It is an interesting one from this dev whose last game was Minion Masters, essentially a mobile game where you throw minions down lanes to take out the enemy tower before they get yours, not one I played personally. This made me a little wary of the title. Going from a mobile game to a full-fleshed extraction game seems like a leap, but I didn't write it off, and neither should you. Vaultbreakers, to put it simply, is like League of Legends or Dota, and an MMO, thrown into the extraction genre with a dash of the hack and slash mentality. It's the first extraction game I've played with this style, and it's a decent combination of the genres. It's still an extraction game at its core though. You choose a character, kit them out with gear, or don't, and dive into the world hoping to complete your quests, gather items, and get out before someone or something gets you. The gameplay loop is simply broken down into 20-minute matches. Choose the map, load in, and get out before the time expires. As time starts ticking down to the end, the map will begin to close in on itself like a battle royale, forcing players to find an extraction point or die. But in saying that, I didn't run into many issues with timing. I would generally get out well before the circle is a problem. But some of the harder quests or bosses can eat up your time pretty quickly and put you to the wire, leading to some interesting and tense moments, which is compounded by the fact extraction points are randomized. This shorter time limit kept runs feeling engaging. No matter where I spawned in a given match, I knew I could get where I needed to go if I had clear objectives in mind. Out of the matches, you've got classic extraction genre progression, quests that require you to gather certain items, meet certain NPCs in maps, or complete objectives, like visiting locations or killing PvE enemies. You'll also find a suite of crafting options and NPC stations that improve your all-around quality of life, including the ability to buy and sell items, increase your storage, and even gain passive buffs that increase how quickly you can heal, for example. And to be able to craft or upgrade your stations, you need materials you can find in runs. Some are monster specific, some environmental like mining for ore, and some from specific boss monsters that are located within the maps. All of which you need to compete for against other players. And this gameplay loop was feeling fairly solid through the 15 hours I was able to put into the test. Where the game took some getting used to was in its gear and combat systems. Now I will say, most of the extraction games I've played and enjoyed are shooters, which have a very different vibe. In Tarkov, for example, you give me a Mosin with good ammo, and I can give a fully kitted player something to think about. Doesn't mean I have an excellent chance, but the risk to reward ratio is solid. A small investment for large payoff. In Vaultbreakers, your gear is stat-based. You could have a gear set focused on nothing but boss killing, for example, a gear set focused on PvP, or simply PvE. As a result, you could run into an enemy with a gear set focused entirely on killing you, while you're aimed for that juicy boss behind them. Puts you at a disadvantage even though your gear may be at the same price. I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing, but it's something to add to the pile for gamers that don't enjoy the genre already. You can still give another player with PvP gear a run for their money, but it was something that came to mind. Where the game really shines for me is in its characters. They feel fairly well rounded, and while balance does need to be addressed, abilities feel snappy, and combat is a decent dance of dodging and timing your own shots against your opponents, while avoiding any other PvE elements around. As far as the playtests go, I'm impressed, but I did find the fights often felt decided in the first second, especially if someone gets the drop on you and vice versa. Another staple of the genre, of course, I've been one-tapped countless times in Tarkov without notice, but there's something about watching someone slowly kill you, knowing your chances of turning it around are slim. Some will argue skill issue. It is, but it may be a turn off. Playing as duo definitely alleviates this and adds an extra dynamic to combat. And I think group play adds a lot here. Of the 5 available characters, my favorite must have been Bjornir, your Frost Viking type, or Lumiri, the Druid type character. Each one felt unique in their own right and brought a different gameplay and combat experience to the table. Lumiri is a very crowd control based character and uses a passive of shooty flowers. That's their name, not me trying to be cute. And basically means as you're landing abilities and hits, you spawn flowers that shoot at your target. Meaning that character in particular needs some setup and is good at controlling the field. Using her in conjunction with another more aggressive character like Thora could be a solid combo. While Lumiri on her own felt relatively underpowered in both PvE and PvP, taking longer to clear, given the extra CC on hand. This adds some depth to the give and take of PvP in a class-based system, and I would say with some balance changes, this could present some solid player choice. Now, in terms of how you fight, characters differ between one another, but essentially boil down to managing energy and cooldowns. Abilities and attacks can generate and consume energy differently based on the aspects of the overall kit. The Druid, for example, uses energy to empower abilities. Characters also have item slots. I had a lot of fun with these. Some of them are pretty obvious choices. There are things like shields or a blink ability, but for solo play, I was using the invisibility trinket, letting me run around corners and disappear when I knew I was outmatched. I really enjoyed this rat mechanic. I know it makes me terrible, but running around a corner, going invisible and being able to ambush someone, or just completely avoid them, was an interesting system and added some intensity to it, given the invisibility only lasted a short duration. The only downside of the gear and combat system is that a character's overall power is indicated by a number next to their name, something that can be deceiving again looking back at the fact gear is stat-based. I could have a complete boss set on and have a higher gear score than someone with PvP stats. This means at a glance, it can be a challenge to understand player power. You can't see the items they have on their person in the same way you can see what gear a player is wearing in a game like Dark and Darker or Tarkov. I should also mention on player choice, the game is intending to have a PvE only mode as well as PvPvE, so you won't be forced into PvP, but for this test, only the PvPvE mode was available. And the monsters are no joke. Every few runs, I'd find myself getting complacent and failing to respect the mobs that roam Vaultbeakers' 2 available maps. They can be beefy, have solid, well-telegraphed attack patterns, and can hit like a truck. Assuming you can take 3 or 4 hits from a truck, so maybe not a road train, more like one of those vans you hire to move house. The point is, PvE enemies aren't hard to take down one at a time, but if you aren't paying attention or if you pull too many, they can present a challenge, and you do need to take your time understanding their movesets. Variety here was good. And on the refinery map, there were a bigger set of challenges than the starting wolves would, giving a sense of progression across maps. I'd be interested to see what else they can do with their map and boss design. I appreciated that both maps had a different flair and feel, different environmental considerations and challenges to overcome. Expanding this out over the 5 maps currently listed would present as a decent amount of content on release, and wouldn't limit them to being able to add more maps in the future as well. Something that really interests me and I think is good design is that maps also hold a variety of areas that are initially locked, I suppose much like Tarkov's locked rooms, requiring a player to use a rune of breaking to enter them. A process that in this instance alerts everyone on the map to what you're doing, creating PvP hotspots and highly contested areas. Some quests are also hidden in these sections, requiring you to take time when picking up a quest to understand exactly where you need to go. I liked that I had to consider what I was doing rather than having it spelled out for me, and that I had to plan before opening one of these closed off sections, knowing that the moment it's broadcast, I either need to prepare for other players or get in and out quickly. The systems they have here stack on themselves to create fairly dynamic situations and give you many opportunities where you need to pause for thought. To really wrap up my thinking here, I'd say Vaultbeakers impressed me. I wasn't expecting to enjoy its gameplay loop as much as I did. Fighting PvE felt rewarding as much as the full loop PvP. And something I didn't really touch on, exploring their maps felt rewarding. They all have points of interest that promote player interaction with the world. Looking for bosses, specific materials, or quests will have you exploring everything, and nothing felt like wasted space. But I'm a sucker for extraction games. Your interest in this will lean heavily on that. It's a very specific taste that doesn't appeal to all. And this class-based system might alienate some extraction shooter fans, for example. I felt like this is a game that could grab my attention on release, but it will need to flesh out its playable maps, characters, and ultimately the game's balance will cause this to either sink or swim. A class-based system for an extraction game is risky. If one class is stronger than the others, it will devolve into a soup of everyone following the same meta. And with a stat-based gear system, zero to hero style runs, playing against the grain will be more of a challenge. But they do have an all-around good progression system. A clear vision and a good mix of classic questing fits well into this genre. We rarely get games that are willing to try something a little different. We saw a ton of Tarkov clones that haven't quite hit the mark. We're seeing the same with Dark and Darker. I'm glad to see Beta Dwarf trying something new. Thanks so much for checking out this video. If you joined in the playtest or you've just been viewing some videos on it, let me know in the comments what you think about this game. What do you think about the fact that it's class-based? A class-based extraction game isn't something I saw coming, but I think it lands fairly well for me. I'd be really curious to see how far they can take this concept and what else might come in the future as well. If you've enjoyed the video and want to help me out, hitting like button's the best way to do it. If you're looking for more content, you know the subscribe button's there. But you being here, that's what really matters. If you're looking for even more gaming content, I stream right here on YouTube and Twitch, 4 PM Australian Western Standard Time every Tuesday and Thursday. Until then, good luck in your runs, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.